Bike Shop Radio is a podcast that originates from 718 Cyclery in Brooklyn, New York. My name is Joe Nocella, former architect and owner of 718 Cyclery. We will discuss modern retail trends, the bike industry, and life in and around our vibrant shop. We focus on content and interest, not recording technology and slick editing. Our stories might happen in our loud shop, on the louder streets of Brooklyn, or out in the country on a bike camping trip. There might be sirens or Van Halen in the background, so be prepared. Thank you for taking the time to listen this far. I hope we can entertain you for the remainder of the episode.
That Andrew and I definitely agree on. It's like, Kiss were a terrible band. They're a terrible band who made really bad records, and there's no reason to remember them other than the image and what they did. They were a terrible band. Yeah. They never had a Pet Sounds. I couldn't even say it's like, that's Kiss's Pet
Destroyer.
Sounds. Because there wasn't one. Because like half of those records are just garbage.
Yeah. Did you ever listen to the four albums in a row? That,
you played that.
This is another one.
And I will say, too, on the solo record.
So this is when the four guys made, it was 78, maybe or 79. They were... They were all kind of set off. They all made solo records, and each record had their face on it. It was like it wasn't like they were leaving the band to kind of do a solo project. It was kind of very calculated, there's a thing on YouTube. It's called Kiss. I think it's called like Kiss Faces or Kisses. And basically what it does is it takes all four of the albums and meshes them together at once. And the graphic is all four of the faces at once. But it's all four of the songs, or all four of the albums started at the same time. And man, if you could get through a song, it's four songs like jamming at the same time, four Kiss songs, and the sum of the parts does not equal the whole in any way. And it's kind of like the music they would use for like hostage negotiations to like drive someone out of a building.
Right. They would use Metallica, right? That was
God. If you could find. So we were just talking about Kiss and that famous. Makeup unveiling. And what year was that? When do you think that was?
Was it 80? Was it early 80s or was it mid 80s? I don't remember. Because Lick It Up, I think that was like mid 80s.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you think of that song,
it was Eric Carr, and it was it wasn't.
Was it Vinnie Vincent?
Vinnie Vincent, Eric. Because it wasn't Peter Criss and it wasn't Ace Frehley.
I know all the latter day Kiss members. It was the one named Bruce or something. It's like,
and they kind of came up with new mythology. No, he's like the space cat, or like they had to come up with like their little mythology and their little backstory about like this dog man. And
really, I think it was like just draw on his face and see what we get.
Draw a couple triangles.
We'll just figure it out. I remember hearing. This is a little bit after that song Crazy Nights. I was in England and it was in the chart, and I remember thinking, this is the stupidest song I've ever heard in my life, because the chorus goes crazy nights.
No, I need one more crazy. Like Gene Simmons, like, we need one more crazy in there.
Just picture him in the studio. I forget the lyrics.
You're just writing it down like crazy, crazy, how many more crazies?
Horrible. I thought Billy Ocean was really bad, but I was like, no, this is the worst song I've ever heard.
And you're talking about Gene's their farewell tour coming up, and it's not clear who their lineup is. They're very cagey about like keeping the fans on the edge of their seats. Yeah,
Paul was like, I think he was hesitant. He's like, we're not going to make any promises. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. Right. As in, like, I don't want to get hopes up it's going to be really good. It's like, you just have to kind of come and see us. That doesn't mean I don't think that he won't be back on Broadway again or whatever.
Yeah, the best is the Folgers commercial. If anyone, listen, in the sound of my voice, if anyone ever needs something to look at, try to find on YouTube, and you can find it. Paul Stanley did a Folgers commercial, and I don't think it was ever aired. Actually, I think it was so bad it wasn't even aired. There's a backstory to it. You can find the research. But man, oh man, watch this commercial. It's crazy, and I think it's right around the time when he was going for the Phantom of the Opera bit, because there's lots of like Broadway theatrics in his dancing and singing, and oh my god, it's
you could just like, it's too bad he's too old to be in the new Cats movie with Taylor Swift. Anybody that was one of the funny things in the Skid Row book. I Sebastian Bach's autobiography, where the competition between he and Paul for the lead in Phantom of the Opera. Right. And how seriously Paul took it.
And he got up and left during one of the performances. He just couldn't take it because he had to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, didn't Paul get another part for the traveling version of it?
He must have, or like
something
in Vegas, or maybe it was like something like that.
I think he had a secondary role down the line.
Yeah, I almost just got it mixed up because I think they built some weird techie show around Rick Springfield in Vegas. I think it was called like FX, where he's like this kind of ultra modern. It's only a few years ago. That's a great autobiography.
Rick Springfield's autobiography.
It's really dark, but it's really he gets in there. You would
What's it called?
Never know.
Don't Talk to Strangers.
It's something like
Jesse's
that.
Girl.
No, not Working Class Dog. I don't know. It's like some. It's called. It's a lyric from Jesse's Girl.
Oh, don't tell me.
Late at Night is what it's called.
Oh, where's that line in the song? So we're saying that the Kiss albums are being re-released.
Yeah, as a vinyl box set. So everybody save your pennies because man. But here's my tip for people. You could get each of those records for 50 cents to $2 and have that box set without spending $100.
So let's take a look at the track list on all four of these.
I do want to give some
annotation, really.
Positive feedback to. There's a song on here like. Okay, so the first song on the Paul Stanley record, "Tonight You Belong to Me."
Right.
It's actually not a bad song.
Okay.
The rest of this.
So this is the first of the four albums. Paul Stanley's. We're doing a quick review. Peter Criss's album.
Yeah, this is not a terrible record. He was the most.
Is "Rock Me Baby" what I think it is?
No,
not that song.
Reviews for Peter Criss were mostly negative. It was the lowest charting solo Kiss album, which is funny since. Peter's croaky voice was on Beth, like the best Kiss single.
Right,
and Ace's
album. This is the third album.
Right, this was thought to be good, and he's with Eddie Kramer, who's
scroll down the list so we can
Hendrix's
see the track list.
Yeah, so there's Near Group. So that was by this band called Hello. Yeah, he just nailed it. He picked the best song.
And then what about Gene's album?
And Gene's, look at that. When You Wish Upon a Star.
See You in Your Dreams. Oh my God, this is creepy. Man of a Thousand Faces.
Absolutely.
Always
heinous.
Near You. Nowhere to Hide. We were talking the other day about how so many rock songs are just creepy and they're possessive.
They're all about stalking
and creeping.
There's no...
Yeah, I mean, look at of these 10 songs on the Gene Simmons album. See You Tonight kind of implies that I'm going to be seeing you if you like it or not. Living in Sin, Always Near You, / Nowhere to Hide.
They're all about making really aggressive maneuvers on people.
Right.
All
and
of
then
them.
See You in Your Dreams. That's another song. Gosh, he's really covering all the bases.
See You in Your Dreams. He should add the word bitch to that. So I think that's what he's really.
So he's going to see you tonight. He's going to be really close to you and always near you, and then he will see you in your dreams by track 10. This is a pretty complete picture of Gene Simmons' takeover of your life.
Horrible.
On the original CD release, gosh.
But I'm still fascinated with the fact that they put these out. They were big enough to put these out simultaneously, and they all kind of had the same cover and stuff.
And they probably all did financially, right? I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that they felt like having to be in Kiss held them back from their real artistic pursuits.
Right.
But they're not as bad as they could have been. I mean, these records could hold their head up against most Kiss records.
Right. That'd be great. That'd be a great, could any of these four albums just have been another Kiss album and you wouldn't know it?
Yeah, you wouldn't. Kiss are one of the most overrated bands in the history of the universe. And I think any real music head will tell you. And I do know, I worked with somebody I would call the biggest Kiss fan on earth. Basically.
Oh my gosh.
He had his entire house decorated, the whole thing.
Did he get married at a Kiss con at a convention?
So into it. I knew a girl I used to work with who told me she was saving her virginity for Gene Simmons, and ultimately she got to meet him. I don't think anything happened, but so there are people in this world.
There are, and they're older and they have discretionary income, and it's like the Jimmy Buffett fans that'll pay to go to some resort or live in some planned community. I'm sure these guys will have some kind of planned community or chairlift or something for older folks, because their fans have got to be I always think if their fans were 20 in 1980, just as you were teenagers, you grew up with it. Maybe in 1980 you were 20, so that means now you're what? wasn't 20. I mean, 60, almost 70.
You're up there. All I know is that we were children. I'm old. We were children when these guys were big. Okay, so like you. And I was in grade school, right? So that's telling enough. I mean, these were.
Well, I did bring it up as in their marketing and kind of pitching to their audience as their audience has grown older and has potentially more discretionary income to spend on nonsense.
Right.
Like Kiss nonsense.
And I think back then it probably seemed more threatening. Do you know what I mean? Now it's more comical and jokey.
It's a joke.
Back then it probably seemed more threatening.
I mean, I can see how it would be threatening to parents of a 13-year-old in like the mid-70s that was into Kiss.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, night and Satan service, you know, like whatever the hell all that crazy stuff was. These guys were crazy like a fox. I mean, there's no like devil worship. You know, the whole thing with with Iron Maiden and like, you know, those, you know, devil, you know, playing the songs backwards and the whole Chipper Gore thing. I think those guys aren't devil worshippers. I mean, I think they're crazy marketers.
It's really naive.
It's really and it's an insult to real devil worshippers.
Yeah. And I think it's true. I think it was so threatening there was so much more of a generational divide in terms of like, you know, if you watch, say, All in the Family, if anybody's seen it, I always assumed they were like an older couple.
Yeah.
And then I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, Edith and Archie were in their 50s? Because they seem much older.
And they were from...
It's just like a different
it was almost portrayed that he
generation.
was like almost like the World War II vet.
Oh,
you know, in terms of time frame when that show came out, he would have been probably a veteran of, and that was my grandfather's age when I think of that time in that place.
So that cultural divide between like old and young was so much more extreme.
Right.
So things like Alice Cooper, I guess, were probably really, really threatening and scary.
Iron Maiden, I mean, all that stuff was heavy and out there.
Judas
for sure.
Priest and stuff, and like we probably didn't think twice about it. You know, anything that would make your parents angry.
The best thing with Judas Priest is how, you know, with Rob Halford, obviously, you know, coming out and being who he is. You think back then. I remember Judas Priest was very, very big in the 1986 and 87 high school football locker room. And certainly you had no idea of his sexuality or didn't care or didn't know.
Well, it was like hiding in plain sight.
Well, I remember he had this one quote. He's like, for Christ's sake, like, listen, like maybe 10 years ago, he's like, for Christ's sake, like, look what we were wearing. Like, look at the lyrics. Look at the names of the songs. Like, couldn't have made it more obvious. But at the time, he couldn't be out. It just wasn't appropriate. And I think back and I wonder if the knuckleheads that were on my high school football team would have felt the same way about Judas Priest, or what it would have been like in the 80s to have a gay lead singer in a band that you were listening to. It wasn't even on the radar.
I think the music kind of overcame it because like it was really easy to say, oh, I hate Boy George, whatever, but you know, whoever it was.
Right, but Rob, his voice was just like, you know, beyond stunning and beyond Sebastian Bach's. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Rod Halford probably is the most amazing rock and roll voice.
I think it was.
On the planet. I mean, what do you think about rock and roll voices?
I mean, I think as that stuff goes, and I think those Priest records, especially the early ones, were really solid. And I know people love Dio and stuff. There's a lot of vocalists who are kind of rated in there. It's hard for me. I mean, like as far as like metal goes, I think Halford's like right up there. I mean, he might be the one. People are gonna hate me. I don't like Iron Maiden that much. I find Bruce Dickinson's voice to be kind of irritating. Like Halford, I don't feel that way. Like there's just maybe because the songs are a little bit better in Priest, you know.
I think I actually. I mean, almost after I saw that documentary, that Flight 666, you know, that maybe it was 10 years ago, where it showed them. I mean, you know, he's flying a 747, like he's kind of like it pulled the curtain back on them for me to realize these guys are fucking brilliant. Like they're crazy like a fox. Like they knew all the buttons to push. And, you know, we're 666, the number of the beast, and it's like, give me a fucking break. These guys were geniuses in terms of marketing that music to the people who needed to buy those tapes and CDs. And it seemed like they were very like, and also, I mean, I think their songs are a little more, you know, Run to the Hills, and there's like a little more of a narrative to some of their things as opposed to Judas Priest, where it's about ramming it seriously. Ramming it this way and that way.
Yeah, they took it seriously, and I you know, and I like that. I think for me, just as
his voice
as a girl, like
right.
I preferred things like Def Leppard and stuff like that were more pop.
Yeah,
it was still metal, but I could grab a hold of that. No pun intended.
Andrew's version of Def Leppard, how it's just every song is like his voice like layered like 5 times in every studio. And when you finally hear it live, because they've done some, it's really tough. And I think they're re-releasing some stuff and trying to kind of capture some of those back royalties. But man, there's a couple live in Vegas like things I've heard that are just like kind of a truck crash in terms of his voice. It's just not the same, you know.
Joe Elliott was never regarded as one of the great vocalists. But sure I'll tell you something. Yeah, if you have the tunes, you can kind of overlook it. It's just like it just cease to matter because.
Also, so this we're also.
Have you ever seen Heavy Metal Parking Lot?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's like Gone with the Wind. You know. I mean.
So that's another one. If you're out there, look up and watch the documentary Heavy Metal Parking Lot. It basically is a guy who goes around a parking lot of a Judas Priest concert in suburban Maryland in mid-'80s.
86.
Yeah, and just talks to the crowd and it's just pretty amazing. Heavy Metal Parking Lot. It's a beautiful moment in time. I showed my daughter and she's mortified by like people like look like that. I'm like, that's the kids I went to high school with.
Was she
like,
horrified by it?
Pretty hard. She really couldn't. Did she get it? It was so beyond like even understanding like what those people are saying or doing or why they're there in that parking lot. But we're also we're swirling, you know, the best vocalist conversation. We're dancing around the David Lee Roth thing. We're obviously all signs point to Dave.
I almost don't like when people say that David Lee Roth can't sing because I don't hear him as not being able to sing.
Right.
I think
now he can't sing.
Now he can't sing, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think he was a bad vocalist.
He was like the 5th instrument in that. There's some songs where oh god, I'm blanking, but yeah, I mean his voice is, and there's all those. There was that Acura commercial or Lexus commercial maybe 2-3 years ago that isolated just his voice, the Running with the Devil vocals, and it's pretty unbelievable and very abstract to hear this vocal track, and it's like an instrument almost. It's like he's not even singing words. And then
he was always in pitch. You know, I know he was a cornball, but you know, I'd rather listen to him than freaking Sebastian Bach any day. I mean, it's not even close. But yeah, I mean that's our typical heavy metal voice, that kind of shrill high thing. Not everybody can do it.
Right.
You know, not everybody's like, well, Robert Plant isn't metal, it's like hard rock, but he's sort of like set the standard for it, and he's one of the greatest singers of all time. Right. So kind of like, yeah.
I'm in the mood for a melody.
Oh man,
the later stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, when he had the mullet, I know. But I will say, and I no pun intended, but the song "Big Log" is really good. It's really good. He's like walking around the gas station.
Yeah. It's like a dusty Death Valley kind of thing, right? Then
I really do.
That was on the 29 Palms.
I can't remember. That was another one on MTV, like that was just on all the time.
Yes.
I went to some reception like years ago. It was for he and Alison Krauss, their like record they made together, the first one. And everybody's kind of flocking to Robert. He's kind of leaning against a bar, and he had this.
Was he tall?
He was tall, and he had this blonde girl next to him, and he had his hand on her ass. Like, we were just, like, watching him. I was like, look, he's just standing there with his hand on her ass.
It's like he's drinking.
Such a rock star.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he was discreet, but, you know, I know it's wrong to stare, but I was
it's almost like his, like, lifeline. Like, he was umbilical cord.
It's how it's like when you plug a battery into the wall, he's getting his energy from that. Yeah.
Have you ever met any other of the Zepp?
No, never. It's, that was just, and I didn't really meet him. It was just one of those things where he was surrounded by people because, you know, everybody has something to say to Robert Plant. I'm an Alison Krauss. That doesn't count. Cool. But yeah, he did come into the store I was working at a couple of years ago to complain that we didn't have enough copies of his new. Yeah.
He did it himself?
I will say,
he didn't have a manager?
He had his band.
That was almost like when David Lee Roth got busted for buying marijuana in Washington Square Park. It's like, you didn't have someone else to do this for you? You did it yourself.
That. We had, you know, some funny experiences, like even dating back to HMV. Carly Simon used to come in and go, and I vividly remember this. Like, it's like you don't have hotcakes in here. You know, like she knew her catalog and was kind of rummaged through to see if you had certain records. The one that disappointed me is I love Luther Vandross, the R&B singer, and he
died recently,
about 6 or 7 years ago. He had a stroke, but he complained. I wasn't there that day about us not having enough of his record, and at HMV on 86th. This was at HMV. This is at 72nd Street. 72nd Street. And I didn't want to hear that he'd been like kind of a jerk because apparently he had. Oh no! So I'm just glad I wasn't there for that one. But yeah, or just they want to see, or lots of times it's like, when Bon Jovi's first solo record came out. The label guys were there like early in the morning. It's like, we got to put up the sign like right away. John's gonna come by. He's got to see this. So like they were going all over town to put up the signs. Kind of like
he's driving by in the taxi on the way down, and they wanted to make sure each record store had his.
So yeah, I mean they want to feel like they're getting their money's worth from the label, but some people are super cool, and some people are not. Right. Carly, the funny thing she did one day, I was upstairs and. She had a box set out, and our DJ was already in there. This is HMV, normal weekday morning, and I'm noticing I keep hearing Carly Simon songs, right? I'm like, what the hell?
The DJ's up there like
blindfolded and shit. It's like, why is this on now? Yeah, I mean, it's like...
She's like hostage, like knocked him out.
Like, we have a DJ here. Why is there 10 Carly Simon songs playing around? I go down there, and she's standing in the DJ booth. And of course she's completely charmed, our DJ guy, right? She's all glamorous and everything. And I'm like, oh yeah, hi. I was going down there to say to the DJ, like, what are you doing, man? And she's like, look, can I just want to sign some box sets and stuff. Can you tell everybody I'm here? And like we can do a little signing thing. I'm like, you freaking, like she just commandeered the store. Just like strolled in. I didn't say no. I let her do it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I didn't give her the
Carly
mic.
Simon.
But I thought, man, that's so brazen and bold. But I guess she could. I mean, she didn't. You're so vain. Like, how could that's her gift to humanity right there. So, but yeah, I always remember that. Just how I think she even signed a box set for me somewhere.
For you?
Yeah, I don't know what I did with it, but yeah, some people are into shameless self-promotion, and she was definitely one of them.
Oh, here we go. Really? Most overrated bands.
Oh, yeah, see, this is dangerous too, but back when I worked at the record store, and I would want to sometimes deliberately walk into the buying office where it was all guys, right? There's like 8 guys back there, and obviously they were all music nerds, and I loved them all. But there were certain pressure points that if you hit them, like the people would react. So I would always say, I think the Clash are really overrated. And you'd see like every chair in the room kind of swivel
Wait a minute.
to like dispute it.
Young lady, are you familiar with
It's like when I mentioned Hall & Oates yesterday.
Yeah,
you going right away.
Oh yeah, that's the button.
There's no bad Hall & Oates album.
There are bad records, but I think their contribution to the history of American music can't be disputed at this point.
A lot of people don't know much about them now.
Really?
I was telling my wife about it last night, who's English. She said, "Is this just something that everyone in America just loves?" But I was thinking about it, and I don't think my parents ever once mentioned either Hall or Oates to me ever.
Really?
Aaron, sit down, Aaron. We need to talk.
They're just not that important to me.
Yeah, they are actually been my age.
A teenager in the 80s.
It's big.
They were big.
Yeah, very big.
They were really big.
They're almost beyond the band. Like Hall & Oates becomes beyond just a band. Like it's just a phrase.
Right. They were like this. It's a way of life. And I will attest to that. It's definitely a way of life.
Which way of life?
Which way is it?
Yeah, I want to say they spoke to me. Yeah, But there was a time when they sort of fell out of favor and they weren't cool in the 90s.
Right.
And I know because they went from playing like big giant stadiums and stuff. I went from seeing them at like Madison Square Garden to seeing them at Irving Plaza. It's just like this
on 4th Avenue and 14th Street, Hall & Oates.
And not only that,
corner.
I got a front row ticket.
Ah, yikes.
So that should
come on backstage. No, really, come backstage. We want you to come backstage.
Yeah.
We need you to come backstage.
But they're a good band.
So is Radiohead a good band?
Yeah.
That's the question?
Well, why do you not think they're a good band?
No, that's not it at all. It's that I don't know that I think they're a great band, but I know that a lot of people think they are. And so
Right.
It's something I'm curious about, but I haven't been inspired enough to go into it more. If this was actually their song, it would have made it more interesting.
I feel the same way that Aaron feels. Like, I feel that a lot of people feel. I feel that a lot of people feel that they're amazing. Right. But I don't feel it. Like, I don't know what to feel.
Right. And you've listened to. You've listened to.
Listen, I haven't like gone over Kid A like a million times. I mean, I listen to the record, music, and I'm obsessing over it. I'm not after. I couldn't name one song off of Kid A necessarily. I might not be the target demographic.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what? It's Radiohead can be kind of cold and humorless and cerebral. That's true. They didn't kind of start that way. Like I admit to being a fan in the beginning. I loved the first record.
I was like, this is not going anywhere. This is just like it just sounds like everything else that sounded at the time. They totally after that was a Pablo Honey, right?
Yeah, I didn't think it sounded like anything at the time. Really? Yeah, I was so into it.
Oh, really? See, but then they changed very quickly to something.
Well, they evolved, but what happened was they almost evolved at a faster pace, I think, than the audience was prepared for. Because like if you're recommending a Radiohead record to somebody who's never heard him before, you would always go with like OK Computer, which is like the third record, their first like big kind of hit record.
Was that maybe what Creep was on?
No, that was.
You don't have bullshit recording, right?
Oh shit! I didn't know.
No, yeah, we're talking about Radiohead.
Oh, okay. Wait, was the word overrated used yet?
It's coming up real soon.
Well, like everyone's an expert on music.
Right.
No. We were both just saying, like,
yeah.
I know that a lot of people feel that they're a great band, but I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know.
The thing is, like, people were being told they were a great band. Yeah. I know, just being in the record store. So when Kid A came out, it was all these kind of, I don't want to lump everyone in, but all these kind of stockbroker guys, and everybody was coming in to buy this record that they'd heard was really good. And I remember thinking, wow, this is not what maybe people are expecting. They're probably not going to like it. But I think it was like the thing to do. Everybody wanted to feel cooler. So they're all coming to buy this record, which is a difficult record. It's not like a pop record.
Yeah. Did they pretend to like it, or did they make themselves like it, or did they learn to like it?
I feel like, I think that people
of course I've got to like
wanted to like it.
You can't say I don't like it.
Right, and I don't think that a lot of those people really liked it, but it was like the thing to do and say at the time.
It was the thing to like.
You know?
Here in 2018.
So the occasion here is the box set that just got released, and the question...
An American treasure.
An American treasure, American master. And the discussion was about the chapters, I guess, of Tom Petty's career.
Why Tom Petty transcends it. You know what's funny is my little brother loved Tom Petty when we were growing up, and I never had time for him. And then about 10 or 12 years ago, a friend of mine's like, oh, well, let's go see him.
Okay.
He got tickets. And even though I kind of liked Tom Petty along the way, I liked him.
Up to 12 years
ago? I liked him
okay.
sporadically. Like, I liked songs, right? And I loved, like, especially the early 80s records, like Long After Dark. I really liked that record and Hard Promises.
Wasn't that video, You Got Lucky, Babe?
Oh, yeah.
That post-apocalyptic video. It's really weird.
It's ridiculous.
I love that video.
Oh, yeah. Another one of those videos that was on MTV about 3,000 times a day. It was either that or like Harden My Heart by Quarter Flash or Network. The Cuts Like a Knife. But anyway, so we're getting off track. So I went to see him, and it was so good. And
where did you see him?
This was at the Garden, and get this. So Trey Anastasio, of all people, opened up for him, which was interminable and endless and horrible. And so part of the crowd was like Fish fans, right? But the show was so good, and that the next day all I wanted to hear was Tom Petty. This is the mystery of Tom Petty, because everybody I know has experienced this, where it's just like, and Alfred, who works here, did too.
Scratching.
Like when you start listening to him, it's all you want to listen to over and over again. So I got super into it after that, and like started to kind of revisit those older records that I liked. Like I said, I liked songs.
Yeah.
And I even liked Southern Accents, the album that everyone hated back in the 80s. But now it's like, I would say it's weird because he was always sort of cool, even though he was like the old guard of FM radio rock. Right. In the 90s, he's one of the only guys. You look at Springsteen didn't have traction in the 90s. No one cared, right? Tom had like freaking hits, okay, and videos. And he was like a pop artist. He wasn't even, I wouldn't even just call him a rock artist. He was like a pop artist because he had like pop hits. And even amongst all that Hootie and the Blowfish and Gin Blossoms and all that other Counting Crows, he was still like making hit records. You know? Yeah, that's the gift of Tom. And what I like about him too is like there's a real kind of underlying darkness to it. And I saw him at Forest Hills last summer. I guess one of the last shows in New York, and it was like transcendently good. And there's something really cool. I know this is hard to believe about seeing a bunch of, age 45 and up, like people just singing and getting into it. Wow. And I got chills during Don't Come Around Here. It was that good. Wow. Which is something, it doesn't happen at shows that often. I was like, man, I don't even mind that we have to go use the porta sands in the parking lot at Forest Hills. It was really exceptional. I've got all kinds of terrible video on my phone.
You held your phone up in the air.
Yeah, but you liked him too.
Yeah, but like you, like there were songs I liked. I never dug deep until I started working here with people, influences here and stuff, and I would never have dreamed of putting on just random Tom Petty stuff, and now I do, and it seems like it's something, we always look for things here that everyone likes. The 5 or 6 of us working here, we're trying to find kind of a common ground, and also a common ground that will be appropriate for customers when they come in. Right. So Tom Petty seems to answer a lot of those questions.
And that's even when I was referring to, it's like everybody sort of liked it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everyone can kind of agree on it, young and old. And that's the gift of him. If you talk to, you're always going to get really polarizing answers to like, do you like Dylan? Do you like Springsteen? Yeah. But like Tom Petty,
like Tom Petty? Yeah,
it's hard to believe, but even like Bob Seger, some people hate that too, and I understand. But it's that kind of thing. He's just like,
he's special.
He's totally special. And it makes me. He's one of the artists as well that it's sad to think you can never see him again. Right. Because I would say he just put on such great shows. It's just like that's such the pity of the whole thing. And I don't like the latter era stuff, but there's good songs here and there. But
you know what got me back to it recently was Eddie Vedder sang a "Room at the Top of the World" at the Academy Awards. When I first saw it, I was half watching the show, and I didn't know who was singing, and I kind of turned around and looked, who is that short guy singing that song that I don't even know? And I realized, I found that it was a Tom Petty song. I found that it was Eddie Vedder. And I've actually watched that video again and again as he's singing it on the Grammys with all the stuff in the backdrops and everything, and the people that we lost and the makeup artists that we've lost and the production assistants that we've lost.
I watched it but
it was really well done. Yeah. Like the way that Eddie Vedder did the song turned me on to the song, a song I'd never heard before, and I then got into the Tom Petty version of it. And the video is pretty cool. I've never seen the video. It's pretty neat. It's kind of like setting up a concert. But, like a small show, but just kind of like a lot of like busy work kind of backstage, like a little like archival kind of stuff. It's a pretty interesting video. Yeah. But yeah, that song was like, all right, I really, really like that song.
He's just like, and even Alfred, who worked here, we're talking about just being in mourning about his nephew passing, and like Tom Petty was sort of like just the thing that he just wanted to listen to all the time.
That's right.
Pull him through it, and it made total sense to me. And I would say one of my top 10 all-time favorite songs, like all time, is called "You Could Still Change Your Mind," which is on Hard Promises, and I've listened to it hundreds and hundreds of times. It's a little bit of an album track, but I just love it. So Tom, he kind of infiltrated my whole universe.
You infiltrated your top 10 list. Yeah. It takes a lot to get into that list.
It's hard, man. There's like lots of competition for it. But that's one of those songs I listen to probably every single week, several times.
What's it called? You Can Change Your Mind.
You Could Still Change Your Mind.
I probably have heard it.
It's on Hard Promises, which is like not a great album.
Hard Promises, the album with his picture, like the really good pictures.
Shopping.
Oh, the one where he's kind of like shoplifting in a record store.
Yeah.
Looks like he's shoplifting or something like that. And there's like, that was the second album, right?
That's the 1, 2, 3.
I thought that was kind of the album that's kind of.
Fourth.
What's the one where it's the picture of him on the front, like the black background, and it's like a really kind of, you see it's like really in his face.
That's the self-titled. That's the first one.
Because Damage Torpedoes was number 2?
No, and then it's like
Hey, what's up?
You're gonna get
it. You're really negative about it. So Xavier Rudd, the Andrew's soon to be or always significant other KM saw Xavier Rudd video in the airport. Come people, come now. I forget the name of it. She was so mesmerized by it or so horrified by it. She told Andrew. Andrew was equally as horrified and showed us. And Aaron and I kind of went down the wormhole with Mr. X-Man, Xavier Rudd, and it's kind of gotten us to points where I don't know if we can get out of it right now. We're kind of too deep. Not liking his latest stuff. We like.
How would you describe him, Xavier Rudd, to somebody who doesn't know? Like,
he's a beautiful man who is a spiritual man, and he's a very good-looking man who has probably been given a lot of things.
He doesn't know the hardship of life.
I think he does. I think he really. I do think that he does. I do think that he kind of like goes off into the wild and kind of does these things. But there's always a Range Rover at the end of those journeys. I do think there was some credibility with him a long time ago. I do think that his band was very, the United Nations, as they're called.
They would write obligatory pieces about him, like in a lot of the British magazines.
Xavier's.
It reminds me of like there was I don't know if this is a good parallel, but I always found this really funny. There was this new age guy in like the 80s, I guess late 80s through the 90s. His name was Andreas Vollenweider. And he would dress all in white, and he had kind of a perm. And I don't know if he played the harp or whatever it was, but I had a friend who went to a show at like Radio City and was telling me, it's like, yeah, he came out there and he spread his arms wide. It's like, we are all one together, just kind of. So whenever I think of Xavier Rudd, I think of that kind of faux.
Yeah,
we're gonna bring us all together.
I think there was a big controversy with him a few years ago because he's a vegan and level 5 vegan where he eats things without a shadow.
Yeah.
He did a commercial where his song was used in a Kentucky Fried Chicken ad in Australia. And it was really, this isn't like an urban myth, it was really like, you can watch the commercial that somehow his song got licensed for a KFC ad and fans went nuts. Like, social media just lit up.
Just calling you hypocrite.
But it's stuff that, it's stuff that happened at the time that I was at a level that I wasn't even interested in him, so I never even heard about this because it's such a like, I like the I think I'll speak for myself, but I think Aaron and I might be in parallel here when I say that I kind of like the idea of liking it with somebody else in the shop. Like me and Aaron we get to like Xavier Rudd when no one else is around and listen to it. But I don't think either of us actually really like it. I think we like the idea of liking it with each other.
Yeah.
It's like smoking a cigarette with your friend or something because they're smoking a cigarette with your friend, or watching the Jets because your friend's watching the Jets, but you don't really like it.
You're smoking your Xavier Reds in the back of the school. It's like, it's true. But I mean, I guess for
me, there are some songs I kind of like, but I don't like the music.
But you wouldn't like listen at home on headphones.
I have. That's the breaking point, right? That's when you find out. That's when you really. I have listened to it on my own, choosing it at home, and I think that's like, they always talk about like when you're addicted to something, like all the things, the check boxes you have to check. Are you like sneaking around to do it? And I think that I did listen to it on my own. When I had the choice of every single song on the planet to listen to, I selected Xavier Rudd and listened to.
Just like,
not recently, and it was maybe 8 months ago, and it didn't last very long because I think this new material is so bad. Me and Aaron are having a hard time justifying.
Well, I love that you're able to assess accurately the old material versus the new material.
Right. Old X-Man.
Because that's what real fans do. It's like, well, this isn't as good as the early stuff.
There's a live album that we really like, and it captures a lot of what we like about him. There's lots of little grunts and noises and dancing around and lots of guitar shredding. And we looked it up. It's like, he can't be the one that's like shredding right now. So we actually saw videos. We looked it up, and he actually is. I mean, it's not shredding in the Jimi Hendrix sense, but it's like someone's wailing on a guitar, pretty like aggressively.
You have reason to believe
it's actually him. It's actually him. Okay. Yeah, we looked it up, and that's why again, Jimi Hendrix, the next.
Yeah. But, I mean, I understand. I don't know that I've had an artist like I could share that way. Most of my artists have like been filled with utter shame, and
it's kind of like, you ever hear like you have like work spouses. You ever hear this whole concept? Yikes! The concept of like you go to work and you have like your work spouse. It's like this kind of like phenomenon in corporate culture. And I think Xavier for me was like my kind of work, just a way to kind of get through the day with people that are working here and have fun and kind of battle against the people that hated him. It just gave us a counterpoint. But
no, I like that. I respect it. I think it's more fun that way too, because I know that there were certain things I liked, like, and I worked at music stores and all that time where I was the only one that liked them, but they were so uncool that people would come up to my face and make fun of me. So, because I loved George Michael, and I had a big Sade poster wall in my office. Gosh. And then McCartney, and people let me have it constantly. I used to dread if McCartney did something that was really questionable.
You'd hear about it the next morning.
I would get an email about. I'd get like some one-line insult directed to me.
Something in the news with him like today or yesterday, some release or some.
Well, he's out and about now because he has a new album.
All right, okay, maybe that's right.
So he's just been.
Oh no, he's on one of the talk shows, or he's on. Like someone is interviewing him. Oh, it's on 60 Minutes tonight, I think.
Oh, is it?
Tonight at 60 Minutes, yeah, at 7 o'clock, yeah. Wow. That's where I saw it. It's kind of riding this James Corden little bump.
God, he's just like marketing himself to death now. And even I have trouble watching some of it just because I love Paul. I'm going to say something controversial here. I love him, but he smoked a lot of weed in the past 30 years. He stopped doing it, but he's still like, there's still something there.
A little bit of a haze.
A little bit off.
It's just after the Beatles, kind of
post-Beatles.
Post-Beatles kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would encourage it just because I love him as an artist.
Yeah, it's a piece of history. It's really
I like Wings as much as the Beatles, and that's not a lie. I know that that's also people like. I think it depends on when you grew up, but
So I was thinking another thing we talked about. What was your first concert that you chose to go to? Your first concert that you, even if your mom or dad dropped you off, but you chose to go to. What was your first one?
It was that I chose to go to. It was Boston's "Don't Look Back" tour.
Giant Stadium?
No, at Nassau Coliseum. No.
That's their second album, right?
It is their second album, yeah. And we got tickets. They were behind the stage. But I remember being...
Were you with friends or with parents?
I was with friends, my friends from school. I don't remember I'm sure it was my mother dropped us off, but we'd never been to a real concert before with old people and teenagers. And I just remember my friends being more fascinated with this guy rolling a joint in front of us than the show. I was a nerd, so I was all about the show. But yeah, it was, but the best thing, back then, the most important thing, it wasn't even that you went to the show, you had to get the shirt. So you could go to school the next day.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I have lots of pictures of me on my vacation at Disneyland wearing my Boston Don't Look Back jersey. Thinking
it had like 878 on it.
It had like
the
upside down guitar. Yeah, I thought I was so cool. But that was the highlight.
My first show the first concert I went to that I can remember, it wasn't of my choosing, but I'm glad we went, was the Village People opening up for Gloria Gaynor, the Tarrytown Hilton. And this was the I Will Survive kind of era. And the Village People opened up, and I was like 7 or 8, and God, there's there's the sailor and the army guy, and it's just like, whoa, this is awesome.
That's
and there was
the gayest show ever.
It was unbelievable.
It's amazing.
And my parents were super into disco and grew up in a very kind of liberal kind of. I grew up in a very liberal kind of family and households, and all that stuff there was nothing like out of the ordinary about any of that stuff. But as a 6 or 7 year old, and maybe I was 8. It was unbelievable. It was
that the Go West tour? Do you remember?
Well, they were opening.
Okay.
And they also were on. I remember they were on Muppet Show soon thereafter, which was kind of classic. My mom has stayed involved with the Village People. She's seen them. I can't even imagine, but she knows Felipe died like in 70. She knows like all the lineage. I mean, I don't mean to say that directly, but the lineage of all the guys and like when they died and when they were replaced. by like the new cowboy and the old Indian and the whole lineage.
Wow.
There's still some of the guys that are still left.
Yeah,
and there was an extra guy for a while. There was an extra army guy, and he left because he.
I just remember they had done the standard Village People thing. Then they hit like the mid '80s, and they started wearing makeup and doing like the new romantic thing.
Yeah.
Like the album cover is amazing for that one.
But it was cool. I mean, it was fun. And then the first concert I chose to go to was Men at Work opening. With Haircut 100 opening for them at Radio City Music Hall.
I'm so jealous.
And it was fantastic. It was just me and my mom. I remember, I must have been in 7th grade, but it was the first album. And then was it Cargo or some of the first album? Was it just Cargo was the second album, maybe.
Yeah, I just remember the yellow cover.
Yeah, it was like the street sign or the construction sign. I don't know what the name of that album was, but it was that album, and it was fantastic. It was really great.
You got to see Haircut 100, something I never got to do. Of all those 80s bands I used to waste all my time on, I don't
remember the crowd. I remember being in Radio City Music Hall, and I don't really remember I don't actually, if you would have told me that I didn't go, I probably would believe you that I didn't go because I don't remember anything about the show.
They played Radio City, like that they weren't
at the Garden yet, or
that echelon, because it seems like they.
Well, that was like the whole, Australia is like the beginnings of like Crocodile Dundee and Max Headroom and the whole like fetish of Australian stuff in America in the early to mid '80s.
Barbie,
the whole like that's a knife, that's not a knife. The whole like era of all the things, everything Australian is like exotic and cool.
Oh, Vegemite! Right? Yeah, they made such a big deal out of that.
What is that? I remember reading like the lyrics of Down Under, and a lot of it is like slang for things I don't know what they are. It's kind of crazy. But Colin Hay, did he just one of the leads? I think the horn player killed himself recently. The saxophone player.
Yeah, Greg.
Maybe, Greg. Yeah. I don't know if he killed him. I shouldn't say.
One of the guys was in prison for a while for something. I don't remember. But But Colin Hay's still out there. But they sounded a little like the Police. So that was the lore. Remember on MTV, they used to play that video like 24/7.
Down Under. Yeah.
Who Can It Be Now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just
Colin, and he's got like that one lazy. It's kind of a lazy eye, but it's a little off. It's a little like a crazy eye. Maybe it's not a lazy eye, but it's a little like not straight.
Yeah, which is like a pupil surrounded by this big white circle.
And I can't remember like the videos beyond or much more about. I remember I had this little boombox, and I remember getting batteries, big D batteries, so I could play that tape outside, and I thought that was kind of cool. That was.
This is
81, maybe.
There was something about taking it into the backyard. I remember, it's like I can play Squeeze in the backyard now.
My capabilities
freaking gigantic.
My reach has just increased by 800 yards.
But I mean, even like the first Walkman was such a thrill.
I had the yellow Walkman, the sports one.
Oh, did you?
I liked that one because it was a little waterproof. It was a little more rugged.
Yeah.
But I remember the first thing I ever heard with headphones, and this is kind of a cool story. My parents. We're into music and disco, and KTU was always on the radio. 92 KTU, the big disco channel, and they would go out in the 70s. I mean, they were at Studio 54. They were out and dancing, and we had tons of babysitters throughout that whole era. They were into it for sure. And they got this awesome stereo. And I remember the first thing I ever put real headphones on and listened to was the beginning of 1984, the first song on the Van Halen album, which is that crazy synthesizer track that sounds like, Space Odyssey, which is like mind-blowing. I can still see myself on the couch like with headphones on for the first time, like big headphones, like studio headphones that they had. It was crazy. And I must have had a cassette of it. I must have had a cassette because I didn't have the record of that and CDs weren't born yet.
Wow. I don't remember the first time I heard headphones, but I do think all bands should go back to starting off their records with 1-minute synthesizer intros. I think Steve Miller did that to right? Then it would kind of like lead into whatever it's like Jungle Love or whatever the hell it was, right? Or like Van Halen. It's like you were about to take a journey, like you just arrived at the Palace of Oz.
That's right. That'd be a good thing to talk about. It's like the starting of albums with like the 1-minute interlude of synthesizer. So that the Steve Miller, I can see that.
Yeah, it's such a throwback.
It's a Jet Airliner, right?
Yeah,
that's the lead into.
Because he has like he'll have like weird little instrumental like synth breaks because he is the space cowboy and everything.
Yeah. I liked him, and I liked the stance he took at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I like when he kind of pointed out the hypocrisy of like what a band means and what the marketing of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is, and it's like I think like he got 2 tickets for the whole like, and the band could like buy tickets for like $10,000 or something like that, or something unbelievably ridiculous. In terms
it was
of the way
one of the best curmudgeon speeches. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's like because you find yourself like, yeah, Steve, you got a point there. That's one of those records where it's just like you can't believe how many kind of hits are on it. Like Bob
74 to
Seger.
77.
Yeah, it's almost shocking.
It's that album is every college kid when I was in college had that. I mean, it's 70. It's like 74 to 77 or whatever the hell it is.
Something like that.
I know the Eagles ones the years are a little different.
Yeah.
But we've actually played that album here, like the Spotify version of that album.
Yeah.
And maybe right before you got here over a year ago, we were into playing because it's like everyone here likes it. Start to finish was like hits, like.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
it's just full of hits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even now, like if I ever get really agitated, like Steve Miller "Wintertime" is one of my go-to songs to calm me down. Like if I'm ever institutionalized, they could just put that on for a while.
I remember he was one of these guys that you never knew what he looked like because he didn't.
Right.
There weren't too many videos. There weren't, as they were, maybe they were kind of gearing down a little bit in the early 80s when MTV was really happening and all their hits had already happened.
Right.
So there's really no venue to see what this person, he looks kind of like Jim Jones.
Yeah.
He was kind of weird, but there was no way to and he wasn't like a rock and roll looking guy. He wasn't like a,
he was sort of.
He wasn't like Billy Squier, like, hey, that's a rock and roll star,
See, back then, like, it was much more important to have, like, a horse with wings on the cover or the upside-down guitar. No one gave a crap what you looked like. I think it was, like, less of a cult of personality. It was just kind of about this.
Yeah. When I finally saw what he looked like, again, it must have been the late 80s or mid-80s when I finally saw what he looked like. I don't even know how I saw. Maybe it was a magazine or... What do you do?
He was there's a video for Abracadabra when that came out.
I want to reach out and grab you.
Yeah.
What rhymes with Abracadabra?
All right. Sorry, Steve. I think that song is so bad. But,
it's a tough one. I confuse that with I confuse that song with the Greg Kidd song "My Love's in Jeopardy."
Oh,
like in my mind, the video and the songs, I confuse the two. I always think of like Greg Kidd as like the poor man, Steve Miller, just endlessly putting out albums every year with a stupid name in the title. It's like
he had a record. I'm sure it was called Rock-kin' Roll.
Yeah, all of them, and it was every year he put out an album, and that was like his claim to fame. It's like Conspiracy was one, I think. There's some, they're all anything that has that, and I do like the live version of the breakup song. There's a very good live version of that. Like when you hear the live version of that song. And then try to listen to like the studio version. It doesn't hold up. The live version, because there's a crowd in the background. Like there's something going. It's like it's almost like he's singing about the bar, like what's happening, like this breakup. It's kind of a good. It's a good little lead-in. There's a good little bass drum kind of lead-in. He talks a little bit about the song as it rolls in.
I may have heard that before.
I'm sure you have. Yeah.
That was sort of a fun song. He had like he did some synth pop after that. There was a song called Lucky that was really good. I'm sure I still have it. But yeah, he was just the poor man's
Steve Miller, right? Would you call him that? I mean,
he's kind of in the vicinity. I mean, he's very West Coast, but yeah, it just never really happened.
Never really happened.
Like it was always
probably has like a New Year's Eve show that has a lot of people that go in like one particular
There's
town.
People that just love him.
Yeah.
But he's another one of those guys.
You kind of swimming around at the second level.
It's weird, but he's one of those people where I think of
Weird Al did it.
Weird Al first, and then I'll think of him.
I think of that video. I Lost Some Jeopardy before.
Yeah, Lost Some Jeopardy. It's like I think I saw that when I watched the Joan Jett documentary last week, and I was thinking I love Rocky Road. Yeah, I mean it's just kind of
his stuff was pretty unbelievably like
kind of in there. And I'm fat. That was the other one.
Well, I think we have enough for this episode of Bike Shop Radio / Rock and Roll Radio.
Yeah, we can get more controversial.
No, because this episode is also going to have the rock and roll song of the reggae and the reggae version of Rock Songs.
Oh God, yeah.
That was from early in the week.
Right.
And I haven't put that on.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that went off onto a tangent, didn't it? Like that was. Like,
yeah, but also we talked earlier in the week with Andrew about. I grabbed him on Tuesday. Anyway, no, it'll be fun. This will be a good episode. Think of anything else and we could talk about Marty Balin.
Oh, Marty Balin.
R.I.P.
Oh, Marty Balin, R.I.P. For real. His first solo record's really good, everybody. Yeah. Yeah. He and Grace didn't get along. Grace, like
ever or just in general?
They had problems. They had a lot of problems. She was a handful. She had like alcohol issues and
were they like a couple?
Oh, no.
They were not.
No. Grace hooked up with most of the guys in the band, and her book, right? By the way, is awesome.
Grace Lake's book.
Yeah, Grace. Yeah, she just like, and now she's just chilling. She's just painting.
Yeah,
being a cool old
she's
lady
earned
out
it.
there.
I'll check that out. Yeah, we need to get some more books in our rock and roll library. We were just donated. Yeah. We have a rock lit section of the shop, and people are bringing in rock and roll autobiographies for us to kind of catalog and lend out. And we just got in Neil Young's Shaky, which Hope has read.
It's just like it's super dense, but Neil, he's an interesting bloke.
What's the end date?
I think it's like that's from about
we'll see when it was published.
10 years ago, maybe. Yeah,
I think it was
something like that. But it is the definitive book.
2002.
As they go, yeah.
Well, I thought it was a lot older because the cover looks so terrible.
There's really good stuff about Crazy Horse, but also I was telling Aaron the other day that banjo solo on Old Man was played by James Taylor. He's like that.
Really?
Yeah, and James Taylor had never played a banjo before, so what you get is kind of like, that's why it's so awesome. It's kind of this ping, 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 ping. It's really great.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen. I'm never gonna hear that the same way again.
Five-string, six-string banjo, something like that. But yeah, so that's...
Aaron's into James Taylor because he uses Olsen guitars.
Oh, man.
And you can see it in the Simpsons episode. Did he ever see his Simpsons episode?
Oh, they actually show his...
There's an episode where it's the space episode where they go into space and they are having trouble in space and they bring in James Taylor to play at Mission Control to kind of calm them down. And of course the lyrics were like, there's one about like a crashing, and that's the
sweet dreams and flying machines.
Machines come crashing to the ground, and he's like, that's not the best line. But you can see him, and the headstock of his guitar has like the logo, and it's tiny. But Aaron's like, that's the Olsen logo for the guitars that he plays, and then we looked up other guitars, and it's really small, and it doesn't, just like in The Simpsons, it's almost just like a shape. But you can definitely see there's a shape there, and that's the Olsen guitar that he plays. Which is kind of cool.
I love James Taylor. James Taylor's like the most uncool, but people forget he was like a total junkie. Knucklehead, a mental institution, so they're kind of lulled to sleep.
I kind of, in my mind, I kind of swirl him around with Jackson Browne, which is, unfortunate, but what?
It's kind of, sort of.
As, same time. I mean, awesome. I know the difference. I'm smart to know the difference, but sometimes just I think about the women that they've abused and the drugs and alcohol that they've abused.
Although James didn't physically do it to anybody, but he wasn't a good husband, according to Carly. But he's got some really good deep catalog. If you stay away from like the cheery songs, like Your Smiling Face, but there's other stuff. I think he gets a bad rap.
Yeah,
there's a real darkness to him. I love him.